Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to have Brooklyn with us today. She's a new friend, and what I love about her is her focus on happiness. So let's do happiness, people. Brooklyn,
I,
please introduce yourself to everybody.
Bobby, first of all, thank you for having me here. It is such a pleasure to be with you. My name is Brooklyn, and I am the Chief Happiness Officer here at the Happiness Consulting Company. And what I do is bring joy and happiness and the message of the science of happiness to organizations across the country and in some cases, other parts of the world.
I love it. I love it, Brooklyn. And so, just to catch everybody up, I bring a range of speakers to this podcast, leading with respect. And what hit me when I just spoke to Brooklyn recently was the connection between respect and happiness. And just a reminder, there's nothing soft about happiness, or sorry, I can't speak for happiness. You're the expert in happiness, but there's nothing soft about respect, in my view. I think true respect is actually a very courageous act. And it takes courage for us to speak our truth and respect another person's truth. That's why I created the framework, the respect quotient, which is a step by step communication process for people to really seek to understand each other. So, with that context, my friend, tell us about how you define respect in the workplace.
Such a great question. And, I would also say that respect starts with you, respecting yourself, respecting your thoughts, your emotions, your boundaries. Certainly when it comes to happiness, what I have found is that people who are lacking in respect in themselves or in others tend to have less happiness, right? Tend to demonstrate less happiness at work. So the biggest thing is, am I respecting the goals and the decisions that I make for myself? And I'm also respecting those that are around me. And I heard a long time ago that some of the key things that we learned, in kindergarten, in grade school, how to respect other people. And respect is a powerful, powerful tool for basically, the wellness, the happiness and wellness of yourself and others, from my perspective.
And by the way, you hit on one of the themes that's been emerging is I've had, gosh, almost 30 conversations now on this podcast that are all building up towards a book. And this theme of starting with respecting yourself is so key. And yeah, and I'll just add that I've been studying a lot around trends with AI and all of our loneliness factors since COVID, that recognition of, gee, put your oxygen mask on first, or, am I whole and complete before I go fill someone else's cup up? Very important.
100%, 100%. One of the things is, of course, is that you said another thing that it's been resonating for me a lot is filling your own cup, right? I can't expect to give to other people what I'm not giving to myself. And in fact, just today I was talking to several clients who this kind of came up, which is basically, hey, you set the tone, set the, I would say, the goal, the desire, the groundwork for yourself, and are you staying true to that? Number one. Number two is, so again, if I'm not respecting myself or I'm not respecting my own thoughts and emotions and desires and needs, how can I do that for other people?
Yep, absolutely. All right, my friends. So heard your definition of respect. I love it. Let's go to how do you know when a work culture has respect? What does that look like? What does it feel like?
It's interesting because in being and working with so many different cultures, it's very palpable almost from the beginning. And it's oftentimes, and people say this a lot when it comes from the top. If you show me a team that is lacking in happiness, lacking in respect, or respecting each other, oftentimes what I find is less ideas, less creativity, less connection, breakdowns, silos. You hear a lot of these words, right? Loneliness at work, right? So you start to hear all these words that immediately point to some fundamental values that are being challenged. And oftentimes what I find too is that it happens at the higher levels of leadership and all the way through. And it has to start there, right? Because your team is a mirror reflection of your leadership skills and abilities. You're seeing that in the team. So what I find is that the things that come up are things like, as we're familiar with, psychological safety, people not speaking up, having a sense of like, look, I don't know that people will respect my ideas, put downs and so on. And sometimes people do it in such a way that it may not come across as it may come across as benign, but the longer it goes, the less people engage. And so those are immediate, I would say, evidence of, hey, there's a respect issue here in the workplace and with particular teams. The interesting thing is that it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen overnight. It erodes over time. And once that starts to erode, it's very difficult to get back. It's very difficult to course correct. And so you want to, as a leader and as an organization, to pick up on those signs and those signals very early.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love you've actually laid out both sides of the continuum, right? From when you know it's there and when you know it's not. It's really just you just flip it. Things like
Mm-hmm.
psychological safety. If you have it, people aren't afraid of admitting mistakes and learning from them and growing from them, versus those that are hiding them and impacting productivity and outcomes for everybody. Absolutely. So let's bring in the aspect of happiness. So you've written a book. Feel free, please, to bring in the book. How does that relate to this topic of respect in the workplace?
Yeah, it's a good question. So oftentimes people, ask me, well, so is it that I'm supposed to be happy all the time, or is this the thing how can you be happy all the time? And the fact of the matter is, I am not happy all the time. Like happiness is actually a state of mind, and it's a way of thinking. It's a practice. And so I'm not so much that I'm always happy, is that I'm practicing happiness. I'm practicing being in a state of mind that allows me to have more creativity, more ingenuity, open my mind up to potential. And so this is why I was saying in the beginning when I started this is that when I thought of this questions for this conversation with you was like, am I respecting my own beliefs and thoughts about myself? And wow, if you take an inventory, you find if you have like a scale between 1 to 5, how often do I, set a goal or an intention for myself that I don't follow up on? And I start to let myself down. So, and you find that when people are procrastinating, which I found a lot in my happiness studies, is that even procrastination is a sign that I'm not actually respecting my own boundaries and the things that I want to do. So it's really important to set up practice. And so what I talk about in the book is really around how to create a mindset that helps, people, help individuals or teams be able to tap into that mindset that says, look, I'm going to practice finding ways to be happier every day. I'm going to practice finding joy. And it's not always easy, but it's certainly, especially with the times that we live in today, you have to sort of make a point of finding those moments and those times. I often suggest to people also to write things down. So, I know that's just something that you teach, but, how often am I respecting other people? I can only give what I have. I can only give from my cup. And so am I filling my cup? And I always start with me, party of one. It's where am I in that scale of happiness or joy, or in this case, respect? Where am I in that scale? And if I'm low, then I can do something about it though. The good news is that you can always do something about it. And that's what the brain loves. The brain loves to solve problems, loves to give you direction. And if you notice, hey, I can get better at this, then what are the behaviors? And part of this, we can certainly talk about is the behaviors. And to me, it's always about what am I doing or not doing, saying, not saying, believing or not believing that is impacting the results that I'm getting. So certainly that's where I think that respect and happiness are intertwined really when it comes to that mindset
Yeah,
and that state of being happy.
I love it. I love it, Brooklyn. Thank you. And you know what you're also bringing up with this theme around starting with the respect of self. I'm going to do a little shout out for a company that I was at for a while, Edifax, a healthcare software company that's been acquired now. But in their lobby, one of our, we wanted the values of the company to be more than posters and for it to really be embraced and personalized for every
Mm-hmm.
employee and integrated through performance management, hiring, all of that. So one of the things that ties with this topic is a mural that I think was still there. I visited them recently last year. Right outside the CEO's office, there's a long, wide wall. And what we did was we got a mural done, massive. The word me is on top, and the word we is below it. So,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm connecting with what you're saying here is for our audience that reminder that when I don't take ownership for my happiness, for my responsibility, for my showing respect for others, there's no way I can mirror that in the culture. And so all the teams out there that are always leading with the we, I say, wait a minute, hang on. It takes each individual to make the we, and
Mm-hmm.
especially around accountability. A team doesn't get something done. An individual gets that line item done, and then the next line item, and then the next one. That's how we got to the moon. That's how we've done amazing things in the world. That's how everything works, is one person at a time doing the thing that's in front of them, hopefully that they're passionate and happy about. So they're in the state of flow. But yeah, I love that with how you're laying it out.
You're so spot on. And it's funny because if you take the we turn it upside down, it's me, right? So you take me upside down as we. So I love that mural concept. And here's the interesting thing is that happiness is not actually a place where you always have to be happy, happy, joy, joy. You can actually feel the sense of joy and curiosity because happiness, if you look at it like a word cloud, there's a lot of things attached to it. Respect, honor, values. There's a lot of things that go into that state of feeling. Is that the brain actually loves having to solve problems. And it actually causes a sense of joy and happiness when you're trying to solve a problem. Like when you have a Rubik's Cube or you're trying to solve a puzzle. And of course, if you're familiar, I'm sure with the work of Carol Dweck and the growth mindset, right? And so really the mindset of success. And she did this whole study and she realized that, look, in order for people to find, joy and happiness, they have to have a sense of purpose and also overcoming challenges. And that feeling of overcoming challenges is the feeling we're going after. So teams deal with this all the time, which is we have a problem to solve. Let's get at it. We may not have the skills, the tools, the abilities right now, but boy, what happens when we start to build that skill and ability? Oh, that we can get to it. So maybe I don't know how to do something now, but the key is I may not know how to do something yet. And that small word is so powerful. It's, hey, maybe we don't know how to do this yet. And that's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So when it comes to respect, it's the same thing, right? If I'm not feeling, if the feeling you feel is, I don't feel respected in this environment, which happens, right? I don't feel like I'm valued or respected in an environment. You feel that I wonder what are some small things that you can do that you would like to have done for yourself for other people.
I love it.
Right. That's really key. And a simple thing could be, if there's a newcomer on the team and they have, the name is difficult to pronounce, step up to them and say, you know what, I would love to make sure that I respect your name, respect your background and culture. Please tell me how to pronounce your name and just say it. And boy, that person's like, oh, thank goodness. Thank you for asking. Well, let me and do phonetically and write it down. That's showing small steps. And so that would be my advice for today is
Oh,
you want to find joy and happiness, small
mm.
steps to show respect to other people. That will go a long way.
Oh, I love it. I love that example. I was just going to ask you for example. And you know what I'll say about that example is I'm also very much a stickler for respecting people with how I pronounce their name and asking
Yes.
them how they'd like it pronounced to help me get it right. Almost always I hear, oh, it's okay. People call me this, people call me that. And I pause them and I'm not going to accept that. It's like that's giving your power away. And I say, actually, for me, could you teach me, please? Because I really feel it's important to name you the way you'd like to be named and really take a pause. So, that's again, I think an example that we're both sort of intertwining here is these things might on the surface look soft or just fluff or inspirational, but they're actually very, very rooted in end outcomes for businesses, in how relationships are based in trust and respect.
Yeah.
And let me
Well,
say,
well,
actually,
it's
let me ask you that question. I'd
yeah.
love to hear your distinction between
Mhm.
respect and trust. Could we go there?
Absolutely. Well, I think they're intertwined, right? And we can probably speak on the intertwine interconvergence of a lot of things all day. If I don't respect someone, it's hard for me to trust them. But here's what it comes down to, and I think this is the crux of it all. This is deeply embedded into behavioral psychology, right? We talk about it in positive psychology, is that in order to relate to other people, in order to positively relate to other people, you have to trust a few things. And it's not, and here's just, again, I always go back to what I call the party of one. I go back to myself. If I find myself having trust or don't trust someone, what is it that they did? What's a behavior that they did that makes me not want to trust them or something that's going on? If I'm having the feeling, because I always say is the feeling is a secret. If I'm having the feeling of I'm lacking trust, then I probably won't respect them, right? Because the two are they're the two sides of the same coin, maybe. But if I don't trust them, I hadn't, perhaps you may not have thought about, oh, I don't think I respect them, which is why I don't trust them. Or is it that I don't trust them because I don't respect them? I don't respect it, right? So they're both intertwined. For me, it's what is the behaviors that they have that are demonstrating that shows me that I can't trust them. And also, if somebody does something one time, that's one thing. But if they're consistent in it, then there's something there. Then it's up to me to find a way to have that conversation. Really important to have that conversation. And now, if I don't trust that I can or that they will do something about it, it's going to sound bizarre. It's kind of not my business what people do with what I just said. I hope that they do, but my business is to see, at least voice it, because I'm respecting my value, and I'm trusting in myself to do it. I'm trusting myself that, look, this is something I have to do because it matters. You know what I mean? Like, if I let it go, then what am I teaching myself?
Yeah.
If I don't speak up, then what are the things I'm teaching myself? And so what I'm saying to myself is, oh, it's okay for people to kind of, cross my boundaries or disrespect me in any kind of way. And also, I've heard one time that respect has a lot to do with, if the feeling of respect for the people has a lot to do with your own internal rules that you have for yourself. That if somebody breaks those rules, they don't respect you. What I would caution around that is that maybe they don't know that, right? And so part of my job, again, is to make sure that I state that. Hey, you know what, Bobby? Every time that we meet, whatever this happens, here's how I feel about it. I would love to have a conversation about it, right? So now, if that person betrays that and doesn't necessarily follow through, that's a little bit different, and then you can deal with that kind of relationship and figure out what to do next. But part of trust and respect, they absolutely are intertwined, and
Yeah.
it's my job first to demonstrate it, to speak up on it, and to be able to see some results from that, and then from there you can go do what you want. But I think they absolutely are intertwined.
Love it. I love it. I've been asking this of various folks, not always, but there are different takes on it, and I love your take on it. Thank you for that. One quick example I want to share that's tied to that, and then let's get to your top tips. I'm also hearing in it actually two things I want to share. That one, the distinction between integrity and accountability gets mixed up. Integrity is very much my inner radar. So when you were talking about, your inner values, the behaviors you believe or see that you want people to emulate, to respect you, that's one. Accountability is with another, right? Sorry, and no, integrity, I can't judge your integrity because it's yours, right? I want to understand it. I want to see if we're aligned, but that's one part. The other part is accountability is with someone else. If I say I'm going to be on time for a meeting, and so that's my accountability to you, and if I don't do it, then I have to make good on that. Related to that, and how respect, the aha I just had, or you reminded me of, is there's a really dear friend and business partner with whom she understood that accountability is really important to me around time, right? And so she would let me know in advance if she's going to be late, and that was respectful. And this one time it happened just before meeting a client where we needed to do some prep. We needed to have lunch and really plan out what we're going to do with the client. And she did that, and she did call me, but we lost time. And so I got really angry. And so the way I processed that with her was, I said, actually, I think I've never really articulated why this is a big deal for me. It's not just about the timing, it's respect. I feel disrespected when you don't show up when you said you would show up, because it has an impact on me. So intent and impact shows up, right? And that shifted the relationship so much, because she had put it sort of in this very chronological box of, oh, Bobby's really a stickler for time, and so I just need to let him know and be respectful for that part of it. But it was much deeper than that, and we finally uncovered that. All right, my friend, let's turn it over to you for your top tips around how to have more respectful workplaces.
Such a great topic. First of all, again, I think we need more of respectful workplaces. And I think we will say three things. I think that number one is go back to the party of one, the solo act, which is, how are you feeling? Taking an inventory of your feelings around respect in the workplace. What's working, what's not working for you, super important. Second, it's still you, which is okay. So this is the feeling. The second thing is, what is my thinking about that feeling? The reason why I want you to think about what is that feeling, like in your case, the example, which is brilliant around, look, I have a value around time. And if this person continuously keeps breaking that, yeah, I start getting angry about, but and then you probably didn't realize it, but you did the second step, which is, I'm going to analyze, what am I really thinking here? And then third is, now voice what you're thinking for people and have examples of that. So number one is, I want to analyze what I'm feeling about something. Then I want to think about what is the thought that is causing that feeling, because the feelings are caused by thoughts. What is it? And then what's the action that I want post that? What's the outcome of one of this? And then voice it. I can say, look, all right, so, I've seen you, we met a few times, and every time we meet, somehow you're five, this actually happens with my stylist. She's always like 5-10 minutes. I'm like, you know what, after a while, is it okay? I don't know. It's not okay. But I've sort of accepted it. And then it's like, am I going to have a conversation? What does this mean? And so you kind of start to manage that. So the third thing is, again, then to speak up and to voice that concern. I think one of the biggest miss in sometimes in environments is that people don't actually voice their concerns or speak up to what they have to speak up to. And it doesn't mean you have to go, to HR. It just means maybe I need to talk to this person. And I always say, talk to the person first. Give them an opportunity to hear you out. Give them an opportunity to say what needs to be said. But here's what's interesting. And I find this to be, I don't know, I'm sure there's research on this. I haven't really got into research. It's just my own personal experience. There is an impact when you tell someone else about a problem versus when you tell the person about the problem. It's a much stronger, more powerful, more transformative impact when you tell the person that you wanted to engage with about the problem versus telling someone else. Even if that someone else might do something about it, it's the one-on-one conversation. Why? Just to the point that why you speak on respect. The courage to speak up. It takes much more courage for you to confront your peer and go, listen, here's what this would matter to me, versus, telling your wife about it, or maybe telling another partner about it. It's no, when you tell the person, the courage of telling them is so important because it signals to your subconscious mind, listen carefully, when you speak to other persons about the lack of respect, it signals to your subconscious mind that you matter. That, oh yeah, we matter. And then you get into the habit of doing that. So often I hear people, they'll come to me talking about all kinds of different things about happiness and so on. They go, well, yeah, my spouse and my partner or my team. I'm like, right, well, have you had that conversation? No, I'm like, well, it's not going to go very far if you don't have the conversation, but there's something powerful in the courage it takes to speak to that person directly, have a conversation. But you first want to do that, that assessment. What is my feeling? I identify, is it anger? What kind of anger? It's a fear, feeling like, oh man, woe is me. What is the feeling? Then identify what's the thought I'm having. And then I tell people, write it out. The actual statement, because what happens is that statement becomes a mantra. It becomes a repetitive thing you keep telling yourself. And the third thing is, okay, so now let's put a plan together to go talk to that person and say, well, not just how I feel, but then here's what I've noticed, because then you can be objective in having that conversation of respect. Is, well, I feel it really upsets me when you do this, and or I feel, be objective. A lot of people in the workplace are more objective. So say, listen, here's what I've noticed. 3 times we met, you've been late to each time. And the concern I have with that is this.
A lot of our audiences my audience, I think, is HR folks, even leaders in general, know the SBI framework, situation, behavior, impact, as giving feedback. I'm a big fan of it. I use it. However, what you're describing in that is SBI has a power differential. It's usually somebody of power who's giving feedback to somebody who reports to them or is junior to them. The purpose of the respect quotient is really it's usually peer-to-peer, but it can be with power differential, to just hear another's perspective respectfully, not having to agree with it, and still really take the time to do it.
So spot on. And I was going to say too, the respect, in order to do it at work and have this conversation at work, you have to use words and thoughts about it versus the emotional side of it, right? Because when you get too emotional about something, it's hard to get the words out, which is why I'm saying do the inventory work first, then get into it. Because then you can actually be objective about it and then consider, is it really me? Or maybe I'm seeing it maybe a little bit different. So anyway, all that to say is that it's very difficult when you're having conversations at work that are emotional, because they're hard to get your thoughts across in a way that is respectful to you.
I love the prep steps you've laid out. Very helpful for everyone. And I think it's also a great reminder of not being reactive and being responsive. So just to close out, my friend, please do a plug for your book or anything else you'd like the audience to know. And of course, I'd love you to send me any links you'd like me to put in the show notes, but please go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, again, Bobby, thank you for the opportunity. For those who are listening, again, I am a keynote speaker specifically on the science of happiness. And most recently, this book that I wrote with the full intention to help people at work be able to create a mindset of success in their work and finding all kinds of tools, whether that's happiness, mindset. I'm available for keynotes. And if you have conferences coming up, then please consider having a conversation around that. Super important. And you can find me at brooklynhappiness.com.
I love it, Brooklyn. Thank you, my friend. It's been such a delight to have you today.
My pleasure.